Bible doesn't seem to hold a high view of women. If we go right back to the beginning, women were basically created so that men wouldn't be bored and alone. Eve was created for Adam, and to add insult to injury, she wasn't made in a cool way like Adam was, by God moulding some earth and breathing life into it. She was made by using the bits of Adam that weren't needed. If you think of Adam as an apple pie, lovingly made with organic apples and buttery short crust pastry, then Eve as a tart, made from the pastry offcuts, which had been smushed together, then filled with some old jam found at the back of the fridge. Eve was never meant to be as important as Adam, so perhaps it shouldn't surprise us that she soon proved herself to be a liability by being a chatty Cathy and letting a snake convince her that it was a good idea to eat a forbidden apricot. Eve could have left it at that and simply caused womanhood to fall into sin, but no, she had to drag mankind down with her too, and did so by nagging Adam to eat the fruit, causing the ultimate downfall of all humanity, destroying God's perfect creation and bringing about the broken world which we have to live in. It's all the fault of women, and like Eve, all women are deceitful and unreliable. It's not just Eve either. Here's some other terrible things that women have done in the Bible, which have caused men to get into trouble, and which prove that women can't be trusted. Sarah told Abraham to sleep with her servant so she could have a son, and they got all stroppy with him when he dared to care for him. Delilah cut Samson's hair and robbed him of his strength, and then betrayed him by handing him over to the authorities. Michal had the cheek to shame her husband King David by telling him that he was embarrassing himself in how he worshipped God, and King Ahaz's wife constantly moaned at him for leaving the toilet seat up and for not taking the bins out when they were full. Men are as bad though, and for all that those women did, the men in these stories were much worse. Abraham pimped out Sarah to the Pharaoh because he was a coward and believed that doing so would save his own balls. And he also agreed to sleep with Sarah's servant Hagar because he didn't believe God's promises. Samson was an egomaniac who constantly violated his Nazirite vows, which had been given to him by God. He womanized and slept with prostitutes, and was basically a narcissistic bodybuilder who figured he could do whatever he wanted. King David was a peeping Tom, whose obsession with Bathsheba led him to have her husband killed, just so he could be with her, despite already having several wives. And King Ahaz used to piss all over the toilet seat, and refused to mop up after himself, and he offered his son as a human sacrifice to a false god. The Bible apparently presents a view of women which has informed how we see women in the church today, but there are also many heroines in the Bible. Jael delivered Israel from the army of King Jabin of Canaan by assassinating the commander of the Canaanite army. Rahab helped Israelite spies escape from the city of Jericho, and in doing so, helped them conquer the city. Esther risked her life to save the Jewish people from being massacred. Mary Magdalene, Joanna and Susanna were three women who funded Jesus' ministry, and Phoebe, Chloe and Aphia were just some of the women who were prominent figures in the early church and were colleagues of the Apostle Paul. Despite all the women who were actively and positively involved in biblical and church history, it always comes back to Eve and the fact that she was responsible for the fall of humanity. Even if you read the story of Adam and Eve as fiction, by analogy, the story still shows that it was Eve's fault that original sin happened, that she was a weak woman who gave in to sin and persuaded Adam to sin with her. Adam is complicit though. This is clear if you read the story, but many Christians see Eve's actions as being responsible for the fall of mankind, and the consequences of her sin run throughout the whole Bible.